left, well, absolutely melting down and showing their true colors after the president's meeting with Putin. Stay with us. We'll be right back. My goodness, President Trump disappointed the left-wing national media during his press conference with Vladimir Putin. And because of that, well, all the top leftist critics went wild attacking President Trump today.
You have been watching perhaps one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president at a summit in front of a Russian leader, certainly that I've ever seen.
All he had to do was not, put on jammies and crawl under the covers with Vladimir Putin, and he couldn't do that.
I came to Washington in the final months of the Reagan administration, and I have never seen an American president simply surrender to the leader of Russia. You should call this the Surrender Summit.
What did they call it when Barack Obama said to Medvedev that tell Vladimir I can be more flexible after the election? Joining us tonight, the Dean, Ed Rollins, Great America PAC chairman, former Reagan White House political director, just generally great American, as is Michael Goodwin, also a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the New York Post, both Fox Business contributors. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
My goodness. That was just you could just see the sincerity pouring out of them as they expressed their disappointment in the president, who heretofore they had loved and admired greatly.
Yeah, I mean, the way they were describing it was a disaster, but for them, it seemed to be heaven. Look, I have to say, I was disappointed also. I think, but not to the extent of this. I think the president missed an opportunity to put the meddling question to bed. And the way I argue it in a column, Lou, is that he should separate the two issues.
Tomorrow in the New York Post,
yes.
right?
He should, yes, thank you. He should separate the two issues of whether Russia meddled and whether he won the election unfairly. I think in the first one, he can say yes. Dan Coates, his own national security advisor, says it, director of national intelligence. But Trump can also argue, look, I got the votes. I won the election fair and square. The Russians didn't prevent Hillary Clinton from going to Wisconsin. They didn't tell her to say deplorable.
The only votes that were changed in 2016 were the votes taken away from Bernie Sanders by the Democratic National Committee, and their ridiculous rules all benefiting Hillary Clinton.
I think it's important that we forget the election and that he have a lobotomy on the election. Election's passed. Hillary Clinton's not his opponent. This was an important day for him, and my sense is one of my favorite presidents was Teddy Roosevelt, who always said, speak softly and carry a big stick. The president today spoke softly, and I think he left his stick in Scotland in his golf bag. He's got to get it back. He's got to convince people that in the private meeting, which is where things really matter, he was tough and firm, because that's what the people want to know.
As you may have discerned night to night, year after year, Michael and Ed and I are good friends and have been together a long time. Sometimes we disagree, and this is one of those times. Right. I think the president handled himself perfectly. I don't think, what would it taken to satisfy the morons that you saw in those clips? I mean, and what's his name, Brennan? He's the biggest joke I've ever seen. What is he supposed to say? We're going to settle this now, toe-to-toe with the Ruskies, right now here in Helsinki. We'll see whose ICBM gets to which city the fastest. And, what are you talking about? This is stupid stuff. This is beyond the pale, as far as I'm concerned. He is beginning a relationship with Putin. And if his intelligence community is so smart, just as Chris Farrell was saying, guys, where are the servers? Why didn't the FBI investigate them? And what is the basis for that indictment? Farrell points out the basis for the indictment of the 12 SVR officers, intelligence officers, is hearsay, for crying out loud, and the reporting of the House Intelligence Committee. What's he supposed to do?
Well, to your first point, I think there's nothing he could do that would satisfy CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post. There's nothing.
Or Chuck Schumer, or Nancy Pelosi,
absolutely
or
nothing.
Paul Ryan. It's all the same nonsense.
But he does have to be tough with the Russians. The Russians, he has to be tough with the Russians. And what he should have said, it's a new day. We begin a new relationship. You obviously did something in our election. You always have, and there's no doubt about that. But equally as important, you don't get to do it anymore. you've got to shake your finger at this guy. This is not a good guy. This is maybe a strong world leader, but he's not a good guy. There's a lot of activity that's gone on in Russia that has been illegal and improper.
Well, is Xi Jinping a good guy?
No, absolutely not.
I'm lost. Kim Jong-un, is he a good guy? Is that the standard? Is Angela Merkel a good guy? I mean, look at what she's done to her own country and to the continent of Europe.
The standard is, as an American president, you have to look strong. And as Ronald Reagan said...
Look strong or be strong?
Well, both. Both. And I think part of that is an impression. And Reagan said you have to basically verify and then trust. I would argue this point in time just the reverse.
We had a guy rocking on his toes and his heels with excitement when he went to war against Iraq. And the enemy was in Afghanistan, in Saudi Arabia with its sponsorship in 2001. I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, we've had a series of presidents who are outright jokes, and I'm talking Clinton, I'm talking Bush, and I'm talking Obama. The fact this country survived those three folks is amazing to me.
Well, let me just simply say this. I'm a Trump supporter, been a Trump supporter on this show for 2 years. The bottom line today was not his finest day.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think as to Merkel and her screw-ups with the pipeline and NATO, Trump took all those people on for the sake of the American taxpayer and for American workers. I think today he did not appear strong against Vladimir Putin, who deserves at least as much toughness as Merkel or anybody else in Europe.
Fair comment, and I think, in point of fact, this president is being harshly judged by folks out there, and I'm talking about conservatives, I'm talking about Dems, the left-wing media.
Don't question about it.
He was not going to satisfy them if he had thrown a quick left hook and Putin had said, I surrender all of my power to the great United States of America. I mean, come on. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I was going to give you the last word.
I would have liked to have seen the left hook.
Yeah, this man threw a few of them in his day. Up next, General Jack Keane says President Trump failed to back his own intelligence community during his press conference with Putin. I'll take that up with the four-star general here next. Stay with us. Democrats and the national left-wing media won't let up on this president after his meeting with Vladimir Putin. Caution, we're about to take you into a situation where you will hear overheated, overcooked rhetoric that you're likely to find hyperbolic and also representative of the Dems and the left in these trying times.
The world witnessed a betrayal the likes of which we've never seen. America's president sided with its enemy today.
That's the worst case scenario. And deep breath. It means we're going to have to come to terms with this as a country.
You stood next to that man and you said it and gave the middle finger to America.
That's right.
Okay?
Even Donald Trump supporters know by this point that Vladimir Putin has something over Trump. I know they know that.
He certainly acts like a president that is compromised.
The integrity of our democracy is at stake. We must protect it. An assault on our democracy is an assault on our country. We have no time to waste.
He looks like a president who's compromised? Really? Well, now we know something about the IQ of the left. We'll take up that issue and the hysteria of the left. Judge Jeanine Pirro joins me right after this quick break. Stay with us. Joining me now, Judge Jeanine Pirro, the host of Justice with Judge Jeanine, also author of, we are pleased to tell you, this brand new released book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, the case against the anti-Trump conspiracy, the book published today. And we are honored to be with you on this day of your book release.
#1 day, and I'm thrilled to share it with you, Loou Dobbs.
And congratulations, the book is extraordinary. We recommend it to you. We give it our highest recommendation. This is 5-star, top cabin, first class. So great to have you with us, and wish you a lot of luck with it. And it will not be our fault that it is not a #1 for weeks and weeks, because we're gonna remind everybody about it every day.
Lou. Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Liars and leakers and lefties. I mean, good grief. You were thinking about what the president would have to endure over the past 24 hours.
Well, you know, when I think about today in the last 24 hours, I must tell you, Lou, I think the book was prescient. I mean, I pretty much set the foundation for what this president would be facing from the left. They lie and they leak. And what they did yesterday was they had a collective breakdown. I mean,
it was a psychotic break.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
They blew their collective gasket.
It's incredible to me that anyone takes these louts seriously. Because, I mean, I'm watching the usual suspects. They have no context historically of what this president has done. They do not credit him for a single achievement. This is the most significant, consequential, historic president of the modern era. And there's no question about it. It's not arguable. And here they are carrying on because he was cordial and professional with Russian President Putin.
One of the things I said today was, what was he supposed to do? You know, take a gun out and threaten them with it in front of Americans? Then they would have flipped the other way.
Ryan, a pencil-neck geek who's never done anything except suck up at the public trough, is criticizing this president? This man who has been successful throughout his life? How dare they? I mean, it leaves me just
We're all speechless. We're all speechless. And the sad part about this, Lou, is that, and I talk about this in the book, America is in a place right now, we've got more jobs than people to fill them. The ISIS caliphate is gone. I remember always being worried about whether they were going to come and cut your head off. And now we've got people who, for the first time,
when the ISIS had dominion over 80%
Do you remember
Syria
that?
and Iraq. And now,
gone.
Not so much.
Not so much. It's gone. And so, you know, America got this. That's why they elected this outsider president. They knew instinctively that there was something wrong in politics in Washington. They knew there was a swamp. They knew there was an establishment. But now that we've got the veil taken down, for the first time, we've got people in the Justice Department trying to affect politics, as opposed to politicians who are always trying to affect the justice
system. The president had to put up with Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General's press conference last week, just days before he's sitting down with Vladimir Putin. The Justice Department running its own counter foreign policy against this president.
Right.
And people are clucking and clacking on the left.
Well,
and
let me
right.
ask you this. Look. It now comes to 25, because there were 13 before who were indicted by Mueller. And by the way, you don't need a special prosecutor or a special counsel for this. Justice Department can do this, okay?
Right.
13 before, 12 now. 25 Russians, none of them connected to Trump. 25 of them who will never be extradited, never arrested, arraigned, tried, convicted, or sentenced. It's all make-believe. It's like this. It's like the Russia investigation.
We put
it's
up the
collusion.
picture of Rachel Maddow talking about the worst-case scenario.
Oh.
Mother, I mean, she
they are having a breakdown. And that's why I wrote the book, because in the book, I talk about the fact...
What's the title of the book?
Liars, Leakers, and Liberals. And I talk about the fact that these James Brennan, James Clapper, and John Brennan, these are the swamp. These are people who made up an investigation as an insurance policy to go against Donald Trump in the event, in their minds, God forbid, he get elected.
You know, and at the same time, John Brennan is going around clucking like
treason.
He's just beyond belief. This is a guy who spied on the Senate Intelligence Committee and got away with it. This is a guy who was running errands for Barack Obama long before he was president. And this is a guy who is just about as honest as, well, there isn't, I know of no peer to him when it comes to integrity.
And he wants to complain about President Trump because of Putin? John Brennan's the guy who voted for a communist for president. I mean, the whole thing is upside down.
Well, he stayed consistent throughout, didn't he?
Indeed.
Judge, great to have you here. The book,
Lou. Liars,
Leakers, and Liberals, we recommend it to you highly, and it is available in bookstores, Amazon, you name it, everywhere. And it can be yours. Justice with Judge Janine. Saturday night.